All right, everyone, welcome back to Is It Prophecy here on Israel National Radio, Root Sheva, and the show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is free to do so. Any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. And a reminder, I'm on JApp, Jewish application. That's www.j-app.me. You can download that website from Google Play stores or from the website itself. You can download the shows, I should say. There's a lot of great shiurim and episodes of this program as well. We're continuing the conversation with Rabbi David Katz of Sobelzal.com. Rabbi Katz, the Jewish people have really suffered a lot in the last year. I mean, they tend to suffer through most years of history. But recently in Israel, there was the boys who were kidnapped, which somewhat led to the war in Gaza. That was a big triggering point. And you also had what happened in Har Nof in November, where there was two terrorists that went into a synagogue, and then recently what occurred in France. I want to know if you think there is a link between those three terrible terrorist incidents.
There is. There's a famous Zohar edition called Zohar Chadash. And you probably remember back in the Mumbai murders, right?
Right.
What year was that? 2008, 9? I forget.
I believe it was 2008. A little bit. Yeah.
There were a Chabad, a rabbi and Rebbetzin, right? I forget if they're kids or whatever, but they were murdered in a Chabad house in India.
Right.
By Muslims, I think, correct? Right?
Yeah, and it was 2008. Just check, yes.
Okay, so we're on target. They were murdered, and they seem to have fit the description of this Zohar Chadash kind of prophecy. People are going to write to you, Ari, and say the Zohar's not prophecy. But whatever it is, prediction, prophecy, it seemed to have fit, and it was written in the book. It didn't happen, though. It didn't pan out to the full redemption. We're not looking for people to die. It just happened to be that there was this tragedy. People thought maybe this is the fulfillment. Then, once that happened, anytime that there's the fulfillments of, like, there was 5 people that are supposed to die. So when that happens, I think in Australia, right, one of the attacks, there was, I think, X amount of people that died, or whatever it happens. But the point is that the last series of events that you mentioned, the boys, Har Nof, France, all add up to the points in time offered by the Zohar Chadash. So that has people thinking, or leading them to think, that maybe this is in fact the end. The next element of that Zohar Chadash is wars waged by Mashiach ben Ephraim, another term for Mashiach ben Yosef. And by the way, Mashiach ben Yosef is in fact a Jewish concept. And then it culminates into an eruption of wars with Ishmael. And I just want to make a comment. You know, the Muslims might be sure that it's the end time based on their eschatology. And we're saying that by us, we're just kind of confused with the chaos. But what's really kind of the worst part about it is, A, our eschatology is very not clear. And number 2, what we do have that's actually hitting the mark is very suspect at best, right? So it's chaotic. We can't see, but we have prophecies from autistic kids. I mean, some people buy into the autistics and the facilitated communication. A lot don't. You know, we have dreams from tzaddikim. Every now and then somebody will stand up and say, you know, my great-grandfather came to me in a dream. He was a student of the Chafetz Chaim. I mean, things like that. Zohar Chadash, connecting dots that don't exactly add up. So on our side, we're not really equipped to say who's who, what's what, when is when. You know, none of it's clear. And that's why I'm not even attempting to say, oh, that's him, that's that. Because we don't know. So we're kind of in the dark and blind. And again, it just reiterates the point. We kind of know we're there, but we, at the same time, we have no idea or clue where exactly we're at.
Can you talk a little bit more about the autistic children and what that means? Because this is a concept that comes out every now and then, that you'll read a story that an autistic child said X, Y, and Z. Why does it matter necessarily what an autistic child says in terms of prophecy or Mashiach, etc.?
Right, so you probably know this as well as I do, right? It's a famous Gemara. When prophecy was removed from Israel, it lingered. What was it around? Crazy. You know this one? Like crazy people.
Crazy people,
children, and like sick people or whatever. People that are not full faculty. Let's call it that.
Okay.
Right, and so under those guidelines of people that are not with their full faculties, autism, I guess severe autism, would render that cause. So there's a facilitated communication with them. I actually had lunch, Shabbos lunch, years ago in Yerushalayim, at the same table as Benjamin Golden. I don't know if you know the name Benjamin Golden. He's one of the famous autistics. And the idea is that through facilitated communication, for somehow they got them on redemption as the soup du jour. They do this and they come out prophesying about redemption and Mashiach. So again, I sat across from Benjamin Golden. He doesn't speak. I was blown away. I'm not one to believe in these kind of things as my personality, but I can tell you something. Benjamin Golden is a serious guy. I mean, there is no jokes with him, right? Whatever his world is going through, maybe he talks a little bit, I don't know the exact details, but whatever he's going through, there is serious stuff going on with him. And it's intense. So I'm not, people are into it, people are not. They come out very harsh, the prophecies. You're all dressing bad, you're doing bad, and blah, blah, blah. And it's not exactly what I would believe or think would be the prescription for the end result. But it's one of those things. It's there. Sometimes they're dead on. They've actually kept up with the times, I'll tell you that. Right? It's not like they're off, target. They're right with the times. So it's one of those things. I don't know. It's interesting.
Could it be an idea, for example, they say with people that are blind, they have a better sense of hearing, they have a better sense of taste and smell. So if someone does not have their full faculties, let's say like someone that's autistic, they are, I don't know if compensated is the right word, but they can focus more spiritually. Just like with the blind person, he focuses more on his hearing because it's the energy, there's so much energy as there is, the energy just tilts to hearing. So is it that type of concept? Because people listening might be thinking, well, why would an autistic person or a child, etc., have prophecy? What is your theory on that?
I like to use the word download, right? I saw in a sefer, which one was it? Job, commentaries of Job, that when you're Job, when you're living out this kind of paradigm of why do good people suffer, which a lot of people do, right? That means you're living out the Job program. And you've been chosen to suffer by God, whatever reason. What he says is, when God makes you suffer, it's not just like, he's kicking you in the dirt and saying, go away, you're going to get answers from God if you go through the suffering program. Anybody that suffers and fulfills the dictum, why do bad things happen to good people? And what he says is, when you're sleeping, kind of like when King Solomon got the wisdom in his sleep, when you sleep, God puts it between your ears, the truth and the wisdom. I call that a download, right? It's like when you're distracted or you have a headache or whatever it is, God can kind of like get you the message when you're not paying attention. So the autism is like a perfect download. I mean, they could be getting straight prophecy, and as far as we're concerned, we're totally unaware, right? So it's a way of concealment. God can do his handiwork. We're not even aware of it, and yet there's a wisdom in the world how to extract that prophetic revelation from God's handiwork. And that is if you believe it. I mean, not even if you believe it, it's either true or not. People believe, people don't believe. I'm kind of, I treat it like Torah codes. Sometimes I believe Torah codes, sometimes I don't. It's just not a perfect science. I'm a big believer in perfection in terms of working out Torah mathematics, if you want to call it that. A lot of this is up to kind of guessing and inference and influence. It's just not perfect. But then again, you don't have to have a perfect science for God to get the message through. So I'm no critic to say it's true or false. It's just, some people are into it, some people are not.
Again, this is a Prophecy on Israel National Radio, Route Sheva, and the show is syndicated as Messiah Hour on YouTube. Go to YouTube, type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis, and you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free to do so. A reminder that I'm on JApp, www.j-app.me, and you can email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. Continuing conversation with Rabbi David Katz at somazal.com. Rabbi Katz, you were talking about times that you believe in the Torah codes, times you don't. Can you tell us a little bit why you look at a Torah code and think it's true or think it's not true?
And, and the Vilna Gaon has a premise that everyone's name is found in the Torah. That's like a famous thing. So when I was a young bacher, a student in yeshiva years ago, I went to get my name done in the Torah codes. So I didn't know what to expect. I just thought it was kind of neat. I figured it would work. I mean, I didn't know much about it. And so my name did come up. Most people's names come up if you keep it within a certain character limit. And it came up in the part of Torah that I really like a lot, where Joseph says, "Ani Yosef," I am Joseph. So Judah and Joseph colliding is monumental. And so my name was there. And what was interesting was the skips between each letter in my name was 345 characters apart, which is the gematria of my full name, David Pesach ben Leib HaKohen. So I saw that and I was saying, like, wow, that's pretty good, I mean, right on the noggin with that one. But Rav Glazerson is into this. This is his wisdom. He's, I think, the world master. He's a good friend of mine. He's good because he knows the Hebrew. He's sensitive to the wisdom. You have to know how to do it. Some of his codes are great. Some of them are less great, just like with any kind of find. There's definitely something to it. It's not for naught, but it's not a perfect science. It leaves much speculation. It doesn't answer absolute questions. It's not an oracle. It's not supposed to be an oracle. So it's like a subjective wisdom, and my forte is hopefully objective wisdom. Unless I'm giving my opinion, and this is not supposed to be an opinion. The Torah codes, it's supposed to be more than opinion, and that's, I think, the gray area where it's subjective versus opinion.
Okay, so you're saying that's the thing. Maybe that's why people have complaints about the Torah codes, is perhaps people use their opinion as opposed to what it said.
And no one knows how to interpret it. Like, what are you going to do when I bring a Torah code that says Ari Lewis, 2015, Messiah Hour, March 15th?
Right.
it's like, oh, I know what it is. I mean, you don't know what it is. So they find things, 5775, Mashiach, Gog HaMagog, Nachash, Brooklyn. Like, what? I mean, it's hard to crunch it down to make it mean something. So I think like the revving of the engine is in the codes, but there's no one there to bring it into focus. Ishmael blowing stuff up and killing people, and France kicking out Jews, whatever it is, it's a revving engine, but there's no one there to deliver the message and bring it home. And that's what we're missing. That's called Elijah the prophet. I mean, that is what we're missing, is the announcement of we're there. Otherwise, we know the engine's revving. But we need focus on these type of things.
All right. Now, you saw something very interesting. I want you to share that with my audience regarding reading the phrase that said New World Order. I wanted you to talk a little bit about what that was all about, and if that was also a sign of Gog HaMagog.
So a lot of people are aware of New World Order type of things. George Bush, the altar one, whatever year it was in the late 80s, I think, right? He says, there's a new world order. We're going to be successful. Famous video.
Right.
Everyone's like, you see, it's true. And then they go into like some kind of like Devil 666 video on YouTube about it. But there is a political new world order. I mean, we know that. We've heard it being passed around by politicians, aside from conspiracy theories on YouTube. And I caught one last week. I actually caught my first new world order slip. It was an article. I can post a link if anyone's interested. I forget which. I think it was Newsweek. It was a credible one. It was a credible source. It was not Jim's conspiracy theories, whatever. So it was credible. They were talking about the New World Order, but he slipped it in. You know what I mean? He totally slipped it in like no one's noticing. And what the article was about that in the post-World War II, the world finished its statehood. Right? Statehood began as a reaction from the church in Europe, and the states went through. There's some kind of like, I forget the names of the treaties and declarations and covenants around 1600-ish, and that's when the states of the Europe really became formal and operative in terms of sovereignty and territory. That ultimately blew up by World War II. Germany took advantage of its sovereignty to the negative. After World War II, with the UN's creation, Israel was going to be created. The entire globe went statehood. First time in world history. And so what they're finding now is those dodgy states never were meant to work. You just can't put statehood in Syria and say, boys, get along. Right? It was destined to fail for all the reasons of basically Sacha Baron Cohen filming The Dictator. I mean, that's what it was.
Right.
So like, this crazy dictator. The point is that the statehood is broken in the Middle East. I think we know that. I mean, ISIS control is a representative of that. And what the article was suggesting is that the EU basically lost its statehood because of the EU. It governs things, and most of those countries lost certain essential powers. America is looking to consolidate its statehood into something. What do you call what do you call that thing? The Amero, right? Canada, America, Mexico. Whether you think they're going to go there or not, the UN has a certain power of sovereignty over America in terms of world governance and police officer over the waters. The greater point is that you're looking at a Gog HaMagog scenario, right? Because the reason why the Islamic states cannot function as a state, and then you're looking at a world dominance of basically China, Russia, the Middle East, and the West, is that Islam was built to conquer the world. It was not going to accept statehood. And so now you're looking at really a beautiful display of Islamic non-statehood rising up and challenging any type of statehood, which is crippling the West state theory, which again came out of the church. So in a short way of saying it, Islam is going against some kind of outgrowth of the church. Esav and Ishmael are going at it in a Gog HaMagog setting. Even though it's political, if you look under the covers a little bit, it's really not political. It's Christianity versus Islam. And right in the middle, I mean really right in the middle, is this little state called Israel. And notice we use the word state. The very fact that Israel calls itself a state and statehood came out of a post-church reaction. That is a wake-up call to the Jews. Stop saying the state is yours. What it means is be Jews in the land. Like once you're talking about a state from 48, you're playing into neo-politics. But if you claim and really claim it that you're a Jew in the land, being a light to nations, now you're also a player in Gog HaMagog to the point you win. That is the recipe of winning that war.
And so radical Islam would not want statehood because that would go against their beliefs of the end of the world?
That's right, because they're saying there is no statehood, it's all Islam. Right? And the statehood is saying, it says you might not like the church, but it's all kind of a Christian philosophic philosophical view, right? The statehood came from Christian philosophers. And the reason why Israel's stuck is because they think they're a state from 1948. Boys and girls were not from 1948. We're from Avinu Lech Lecha, right? So the more you call it a state versus Eretz Yisrael, light to nations, Jews in the land, I mean, get it straight. Get the story straight. You know, you think you're being politically correct by saying these things, but what Jews don't realize is it plays into the politics of people that are not playing the same politics you are. Whereas they're actually looking for the Jew to be a light to nations in the land, then you're talking about a victory in Gog HaMagog, Mashiach and David revelation.
Very interesting. Okay. So when you're talking about that perspective, then the Jewish perspective would also not be interested in statehood? Talk about from the Jewish side.
Bibi Netanyahu, for example, right, is claiming Jewish statehood, and he's focusing on the word state, right? And if you notice, the Arabs and the Muslims are really being particular in words, right? It's and the non-Jews do this to the Jews. Well, the Jews don't realize it. They say, "You're not really Jews." We say, "Yes, we are." "No, you're not." "Yes, you are." No, because Jews comes from Judah. Now, a Jew knows he's a Jew. But the non-Jew says, you're not really a Jew, you're an Israelite. And we say, we used to be Israelites, but now we're Jews. I mean, it really is, it's like a Seth Rogen spiel I saw on YouTube, right? Where two grandparents are fighting and neither one can understand the other one, and they come out fighting about nothing. And that's what this whole thing is with Jews in the land and other religions. They say we're Israelites, we say we're Jews. They say you're in the land of Israel, we say we're in the state of Israel. So we're going to lose in terms of modern vocabulary. The victory is when, and this is not a chiddush, nothing new, when we go back to the Torah. Nothing short of that will win.
All right, that's the end of today's program. I want to thank Rabbi David Katz from Solmazal.com. I want to thank everyone for listening. Again, this is Israel Prophecy on Israel National Radio, and the show is syndicated on YouTube as Messiah Hour. Go to YouTube, type in Messiah Hour with Ari Lewis, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's free to do so. You can check out some of our previous episodes with Rabbi Ken Spiro, Dr. Gerald Schroeder, Rabbi Lazer Brody, much, much more. And again, email me, messiahhour@gmail.com. Rabbi, thank you for being on today's program. Fascinating as always.
Thanks for having me back, Ari.
Yes, and again, thank you everyone again for listening. The funeral will be at Mount of Olives Tuesday. This program is airing Monday, January 12th. The funeral will be tomorrow. You're going to have to look around for that. We're trying to get the details, but I understand the funeral will be at noon, so everyone should try to go and show support to the friends and family of the victims of the terror attack in France on Friday. That's it for today, everyone. Thank you for listening, and have a good one. Be well.